This is math lesson 12-5. We're still doing measuring today. You are going to be working on this page. It has 12-5 up at the top, and it has our two alien creatures sitting on a bench together. So go find that paper and get ready. We're going to start off with our math movie, and then we'll do some measuring together.
Read and understand. Do you need more cubes or more paper clips to measure the length of the toy boat? Let's think about it.
So look at the toy boat and then look at the cube and the paper clip. If we measure the boat with the paper clips and then we measure the boat with the cubes, we might not come up with the same number. The boat doesn't change, the boat stays the same size, but the cube and the paper clip is not the same.
How is measuring with cubes like measuring with paper clips? They are both small objects. How is measuring with cubes different than measuring with paper clips? The cube and the paper clip are not the same size. How can you measure the boat with cubes and with paper clips? You can make a cube train and a paper clip chain that are as long as the boat. Then you count the cubes and paper clips. Compare the cube and the paper clip. Which is shorter, the cube or the paper clip?
So now when they line them up next to each other, we can see that they're not the same size. They start the same over here, but the paper clip comes out longer than the cube. So the paper clip is longer and the cube is shorter.
The cube is shorter. Do you need more cubes or paper clips to measure the boat?
If one is shorter and one is longer, we're not going to need the same amount.
The cube is shorter, so you need more cubes. Solve, look back, and check. Measure to check. First, measure the boat using cubes. How many cubes do you need to measure the boat? You need 5 cubes to measure the boat. Then, measure the boat using paper clips. How many paper clips do you need to measure the boat? You need 3 paper clips to measure the boat. So you do need more cubes than paper clips to measure the boat. Why do you need more cubes than paper clips to measure the boat? The cube is shorter than the paper clip, so it takes more cubes to measure the same length. Now you can measure the length of an object in different ways.
Okay, so go ahead and get your math paper out. I'm going to prop mine up here. And it tells us to find 2 things to measure. So I've gone ahead and found a few things. The first thing that I found was my son's math calculator. So he has this out on the table here for doing his math homework. And I'm going to lay it down on, let's back that up a little, on my table. Nope. Stop that.
Read.
All right, so we'll get out of there. So I've got the calculator on the table, and we're going to measure it with 2 different things. We're going to measure it with cubes. So I have cubes here. And it tells us to measure it with paper clips. I only have a couple paper clips at my house. So I have these things here that are paper fasteners, and I have a whole bag of them. So I'm going to use them instead of paper clips. When I look though at my cubes and my paper fastener, I can see that they're not the same size. So the cube is shorter than the paper fastener. The paper fastener goes out longer when they're lined up next to each other. So even though I'm measuring the same calculator, I'm going to get different numbers. Okay? On your paper, it wants us to start off with cubes, and it tells us to estimate or guess. So if I line this cube up here next to the calculator, what would your guess be? About how many cubes do you think it would be? Maybe 5, maybe 6? Well, we're going to find out. I'm going to stick the rest of the cubes over here. Let's put them, line them up with the calculator, and I'm going to break it off here. Oh, one more. There we go. So we're pretty close to where the calculator stops. And now we can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my calculator is 7 cubes long. Back up on your paper, right up here, where it says measure about 7 cubes. So I guessed maybe 5 or 6. That's close to 7. It's okay because my estimate is just a guess. It doesn't matter if it's right or if it's wrong. Now I'm going to switch and measure the same calculator with paper fasteners. I know it's not going to be 7 because the cubes were 7 and they're not the same size as the cubes. So now I have to take a different guess or a different estimate. Since the paper fasteners are bigger, I don't need as many of them. I'm going to guess maybe 3, maybe 4, 2.5. Well, we'll find out by measuring. So now I'm going to measure by lining up my paper fasteners. Let's see if they'll stay still here. Oh no. All right, pretty close. This one goes out a little bit extra, but it's close enough. So I've got 1, 2, 3, almost 4. A little bit close to 4. So I would write down up on my paper, up here where it says paper clips. Remember, I don't have paper clips. I'm writing down a 4 for my paper fasteners. So the size of the calculator didn't change. The calculator stayed the same. But what I was measuring with was different. I was measuring with cubes and then with paper fasteners, and they were different sizes, so they were different. Something else I can measure from around my house is the mouse to the computer. This is what you use to move around when you want to click on something. And again, I can measure it with cubes, and I can measure it with paper fasteners. Okay, so I'm going to start off with cubes. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit extra, but I can't fit another one on there. So I'm going to leave it with 4 cubes for the computer mouse. So up here on my paper, I'm going to write down a 4. And I'm going to measure it now with paper fasteners, which are bigger, so it's not going to be 4 again. I don't think I can fit another one there, so I've got 1, 2. The mouse is 2 paper fasteners long, so I'm going to write a 2 here. So again, the size of the computer mouse didn't change. What I was using was different, the cubes and the paper fasteners. Okay, if you are measuring at your house and you want to find something to measure with 2 different things, you can go ahead and do that. When you are ready, you're going to open up your math paper and we're going to check out the inside. So it tells us to measure this flower from one side to the other side of the flower. And it wants us to use cubes to measure. So I've got my cubes ready for here. I need one more, it looks like. There we go. And if I count my cubes, I measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's already there for you. All you have to do is trace the 6. The first one was an estimate or a guess. They guessed 5, and then we really measured and got 6 as our answer. Down below this pine cone, they want us to measure with clips. I'm using paper fasteners instead of clips. So they want us to make an estimate or a guess first. If you want to do that, go ahead and write down your guess. It's pretty small. It's smaller than the flower, so it would be a smaller number than 6 at least. And then when I measure, I hold up my paper fastener and I can only fit 1 for this little pine cone. So over here, I'm going to write down 1. It is about 1 paper fastener long. We move over to number 3. We're looking at the caterpillar. And again, they want us to use the clips and take a guess first, or take an estimate. So the caterpillar does look like it's bigger than the pine cone from before. What would be your guess about how many paper fasteners do you think that is? And then I'm going to measure by holding them up. There's 1. Let's see, I need to get closer. I can hold up 2 there. I know you can't see it that well. It's about 2 paper fasteners long. 1, 2. It would be a little bit less than 2, but we could go with 2. So over here, we're going to write down a number 2. When we measured, we were about 2 paper fasteners long. Down below, our cricket for number 4, we're going back to cubes. They want us to measure with cubes. So that's a cube. Oh, sorry, you can't see that. So take your guess or your estimate first about how many cubes long do you think that cricket's going to be? Maybe he's a grasshopper, I'm not sure. And then I'm going to measure. Let's see if I hold up these 3. 1, 2, 3. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to write down a 3 here. When we measured, he was about 3 cubes long from side to side. Good work. When you are ready, go to the back page. Up top, number 5 says Carmen made a sundial. We talked about this in science, if you remember back in the wintertime when the sun shines on it and makes a shadow, it tells how much time has passed during the day. How long is the picture of the shadow? Use objects to solve, and they are showing us cubes there. So they want us to measure from the start of the shadow here to the end of the shadow here using cubes. So if I hold up my cubes that I just used inside, I can count 1, 2, 3. The shadow is about 3 cubes long. So you're going to write a 3 on the line. Down below, number 6, they want us to measure the bench going from side to side with clips. I don't have clips. Let's see if I can lay my paper down and then line up. That's a little better. So now I can line up the paper fasteners. There's 2. I can't fit 3. It goes off the edge. So I'm just going to stick with 2. It's a little bit more than 2. But you have 2 as a choice here, so we could fill in 2 for how long the bench is. And then down at the bottom, they want you to choose something and draw a picture of it, and then measure it with cubes or paper clips to tell how long it is. You can measure it with whatever you would like at your house. Maybe you even have a ruler. We haven't talked too much about them yet. But if you have blocks or clips or pennies or I don't know what else, little squares of paper, you could measure something from around your house. All right, good work today.